you did exactly what you needed to do. You brought it to the council after fleshing it out. I think what you heard tonight was a lot of if Lance is and Milk and Cookies are willing to consider moving it forward, then I would encourage RCDC to continue having those conversations based on a lot of the feedback that we heard today, and see if we can square this circle. Does that make sense? Thumbs up. Okay. Oh, good. Good talk, everybody. Moving on to 22, discussion and possible action on a recommendation from the Park Commission that all approved vendors for commercial use on the park be charged $25 an hour. That's man, I wonder if anybody else caught the fact that we actually have commercial use and vendors in the park already. For those that are sticking around, for the 7 pages, we've already lost 2 pages worth of folks. We do have commercial use in the park, and what's being discussed right now is how we're going to charge those commercial users. Council, anybody want to take this up? This is a recommendation directly from the Park Commission.
Is Nicole on the line? I think she was going to present on this.
Nicole stated that she would not be available to attend the meeting tonight, and did offer postponing this item to next month if that is something the council would like to do.
Council, how do you feel about postponement? Thumbs up?
So the
Yes.
chairman of the Park Commission is on this call. I'm not sure why it was up to Nicole. I mean,
I'm on the call as well, so I'm happy to chime in. Even though it was my son's birthday, I stuck around because this is very important, just like Milk and Cookies. So I'm happy to chime in, Sarah.
okay, well,
I'm chiming in because Phil McDuffie voted no, even though he and I were on the same subcommittee to propose this to the council.
Thank you, Nicole. Welcome. Tell you what, you want to provide some context for council? And I appreciate you joining us, taking time away from a family event. Feel for you there.
Yes, sir.
It's appreciated.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate doing this. And we did submit where we stood. If you'll just give me a second to pull it up. Y'all might have the attachments in your agenda item packet. And I apologize. Okay. So, yes, I'm working off of page 205 of the agenda packet. Is that correct?
Sorry. Yeah, I'm not looking at it that way. Ashley, can you confirm that, please?
Let me pull up the PDF version. I'm sorry, I'm in the HTML.
Yeah, so am I.
Is it the attachment that we have called Commercial Use City Council 08-25-2021?
That would be my guess. When I tried to pull it up from the HTML, it was saying that it wasn't posted yet, so I couldn't access it live. But pretty much this is the documents that we support or we submitted to the Park Commission for review at our last meeting. And the reason why this is coming up to City Council is that we, as the Park Commission, have reviewed our permit fee. And currently we have a $180 annual fee that is effective for 364 days from the day of when the Park Commission gets approval. So if a vendor wants to come to the park and use our space, they have to request it on our agenda, and then we either approve or deny it. And so we have that policy is put in place. And then Ashley usually provides a commercial use permit spreadsheet, which is attached here as well. And that outlines the current vendors that we have in the city. And right now we have 4 vendors with a commercial permit, and they are Beat Fitness, Ignite, Kindred Heart, and Life Keto. And it outlines the hours of when they've recommended or wanted to use the space. And based off of that, they tally about 17 hours a week on average. So if you consider how we structured the Western Hills Little League and softball lease agreements, as well as the I-9's sublease agreements through the summer, it basically works out to about $25 an hour. So as the Park Commission, we said, well, why are we having an unequal value of dollar ratio for when people want to come in and use the space in the park? And based off of that, we suggested, well, why wouldn't we follow suit with what the city council has already approved for these other two entities and keep it fair and equitable across all vendors that want to come in and take our space for their own, privileges to be able to provide a service for our community and our residents. So the objective of this proposal to the city council is to be fair and equitable with all preferred vendors that are interested in renting the Rollingwood Park space, to be consistent with the rental rates established by the council that's already been established for $25 about per hour for each field location. And that's what we discussed at our last Park Commission meeting. And then that's why we had it bringing up to council for tonight and for consideration. In addition to that, we also had Melissa Morrow from WEA, who gave us her insight and feedback. And then we're still working as a subcommittee to discover the processes and the procedures that we could take into place as far as what are some other things that we need to take into consideration, but trying to streamline who is coming into the city, what they're using it for, and then be able to streamline it across the board. And that's really what the objective of this was, is to be consistent, fair, and equitable for all people coming into the city to try to use our space.
That makes a lot of sense. And Nicole, I appreciate you guys tackling that. It's been a kind of a long-standing question of mine, why we approach it the way we do. Council, you've got some background on it. Nicole, is it fair to make the assumption that the Park Commission voted favorably for this, which is why it's in front of the council?
That is correct. We voted, I believe it was 4-2 in favor of streamlining. And we had great feedback from residents as well, who were concerned that we might be trying to monetize the fields or to be able to increase, extra outside entities to come in. And we said, that is not our objective here. Our objective is to streamline the process of what the council has already pre-deemed as consistent with our two biggest vendors in using the space, and to streamline it. So this way it's fair and equitable across all boards. And so we did. We had, I believe it was a 4-2 vote. Ashley can confirm that, which is why it's here in front of council.
That's correct. It was a 4-2.
Thank you very much, Nicole. So council, here we have it from the Park Commission, managing commercial use and leases, if permits, technically, I guess, in the park. On you guys, no abstentions.
I'm struggling with the amount a little bit. Seems kind of steep.
Well, Mayor, I think there's one hand up for public comment. Do you want to take public comment before we have our council discussion?
Sure. Diana, I think that's Diana Wallace. Diana, are you wishing to speak on this item?
How's that better now?
Yes,
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I was there at the Park Commission when this was decided. There had been one meeting of the subcommittee with 3 people, and the next meeting was the Park Commission. One was out of town. One was not inclined. It wanted to study it some more since they'd had only literally one meeting. And the third one was quite insistent that it be pushed forward and gone ahead. So yes, it was indeed 4-2, but people were not present, and there had literally been only one meeting of a subcommittee before it was taken to the council, to the park commission, and moved on. So I just wanted you to be aware of how rapidly the decision was made. And yes, there was some research that went into it, but how much can you do with just one meeting? All right, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Diana. Melissa, am I safe to assume that's Melissa Morrow?
Yep.
Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey there. So yeah, I did attend part of that meeting, and I definitely, I think we're scheduled to meet again on Friday as sort of a subcommittee to talk about, you know, kind of what the city of Austin does. I know what WEA does. We rent out fields and gyms and things like that. And yeah, Gavin, what you mentioned about it being kind of expensive, if you were doing something similar to what I-9 was doing or what Western Hills doing, $25 is probably the right amount. But I do wonder, because now that I've seen the other, now I will admit I'm an Ignite fitness person, so I do attend their fitness stuff. But I just don't know, and I think, I already forgot. I know one of the things we're going to talk about is different spaces might be different. So I believe that $180 annual fee, I'm just guessing where that came from, was about, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or so. The city of Austin had been letting people just basically jump on their fields and do these kinds of activities and have classes. And I think that's the fee that they started doing annually, where you basically had to register your running groups or your, you know, outdoor fitness groups. And so I'm guessing we were worried that people, now that they had to pay in city of Austin, were going to come and jump on Rollingwood Park and do that. And we wouldn't anyway. So I think that's where that $180 comes from. And as far as like it being straight across the board, 25, it probably should be different depending on how many kids, how many people. Because honestly, if Life Keto, if some guy's there with just 2 other people, $25 seems really steep. But if he's there with a class of 20, that's something totally different. So that's all I wanted to add into that.
Thank you, Melissa. Oh, sorry, Mayor, I didn't mean to jump in front.
You're quite all right. I'm just going to thank Melissa as well. Jason Mills?
Yeah. Hey, Mike, thanks. I would just, a couple things real quick. One, suggest maybe a sliding scale. I think that's the best idea we've heard. I'm also a little, we should charge people for using our park if they are using it to turn a profit. There's no doubt about it. And my wife's on Parks Commission. We've talked about this before. I feel like there's some mixed messages going on here that, okay, Park Commission, go find more money. And then they do it and it comes back to council and we're like, oh, that's too much money. I mean, we just debated for 3 hours about whether or not we're going to put, a commercial business in our park. And I just, I don't know. I don't know how much we're paying Ashley, but it's not enough to sit through these meetings and do all this and go around and around and around. And then, you guys are making really snide comments about not trusting the community. And yes, we do commercial in the park. Do people realize that? We do. We don't want a 13-hour-a-day business.
That's fair.
This is completely different.
And if
you guys feel like there's a communication gap between y'all and the community, there's a lot of smart people that live in this neighborhood. You may want to look internally and say, are we communicating these things correctly to the neighborhood? There's been a lot of questions tonight and no answers. That's it. Thank you.
Fair assessment. Thank you, Jason. David McCollum, you have your hand raised. I'm not sure if it's an artifact from earlier. I'm going to make the assumption that's yes. Wendy, you have your hand raised?
Only if public comments done. I just wanted to add, I'm on the Park Commission liaison position, so just wanted to add some color. but if there's no other public comment.
Go for it.
Okay, I just wanted to add that this is not a new topic for the Park Commission. This has been discussed many times, even back when I was on the Park Commission and we were looking at different rate structures. One of the ideas that came up was to help align our city park that is dedicated to the children who live in Eanes ISD primarily to use for youth athletics, to align that with Eanes ISD and what they charge for their use of their fields. They do have some fields that are much nicer than ours, and they have AstroTurf. So they have definitely higher fees for their fields than $25. They go up to $40 for renting some of those fields. And they also do offer sliding scales. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a commercial, they do charge more, charge less based on what kind of use is happening on the fields. And so part of the discussion that happened recently at the Park Commission on this was we want to be able to raise money for the park. And, if somebody is paying $160 a year to have a commercial business and they have, 20 people who come and pay them $60 a week, the park really isn't benefiting as much as that commercial business is. And so, overall, the users that use our park now are well loved, and they are, many Rollingwood residents use those businesses. And so I think the idea behind having them pay equitably for the park was that it does, like the Little League and I-9 Sports and all of the other youth athletics who pay for the field now, that just puts them at paying the same rate as what other people who lease the fields from the city pay. Because we certainly wouldn't lease the fields to I-9 for $160 a year. And there's much more use going on with these commercial projects, or not projects, but commercial entities that are operating out of the park. And it will raise significant revenue for the park to help with the maintenance and operations. And I think that the Park Commission started working on this because they wanted to have revenue sources that were not coming from a public-private partnership, because there were people on the Park Commission who didn't want to see, a private commercial restaurant come in to be the mechanism that funds the park. And so I think that spurred a conversation. I think that every time we talk about new ideas, it helps create new ideas. And so I think us now, it's not a new idea, but I think that's why that this conversation has been cyclical and it's come up again, is how do we raise money to take care of our park the way that it should be taken care of? And what do we have now that we're not doing that we can utilize and change? And it's an easy change. And I think Nicole's on the line. I know she's at the birthday party, but I believe this would be like $20,000 a year. That would be revenue for our park. And that's really great, because that's what the Park Commission should be doing, is looking at ways to raise funds for the park, to maintain our park. That's part of what they're supposed to do according to our city code. So I appreciate and applaud the efforts there. And I don't think it's a contentious issue. I think maybe the people who voted against it just wanted some more time to think about the structure. But I think that the majority of the Park Commission wanted to have an easy solution of $25 without a sliding scale, so that we'd have something to start, and then we can tweak and adjust it, see how it goes, but not have it overcomplicated, because we have a staff that's stretched really thin right now. And they wanted to be respectful of what that might look like on our staff. And so that is something that that I think is important to think about, because we don't have full-time person who's who's scheduling and running these things. So whatever we decide, we should really consult with the staff. And with that in mind, even if we do, $25 an hour fee, we should make it where we have consulted with the staff where it's minimum, it's administratively as minimal as possible on them because they are so stretched thin. So that's my my color on it, and I'll let anyone else who wants to talk go ahead.
Phil McDuffie had a hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I think Wendy just made a lot of really great points that I would like to reiterate. One is whatever we do as far as rates and that kind of structure, I want to make sure that we're actually making money for the city rather than costing it more with administering a bunch of administrative burden on Amber and Ashley and everybody else. And one of the reasons why I think we need more time and more discussion and more deliberations about it, because I do think there is a difference depending on how many participants you have and that type of thing. I don't want to create an overly complex rate structure, but the wear and tear on the field, the number of cars coming into the neighborhood, all those kind of things should at least be considered when setting the rate structure, and also the size of the fields, how many fields are actually being used, that type of stuff. And I don't feel like the Park Commission has had adequate deliberation on that. I think we're much more, I did a lot of research on what Austin did and was trying to look at other city parks. A lot of city parks don't have a whole lot of structure at all, especially a park that's more small like ours. So mostly what I was able to find was something similar to Austin, but I do think we need to kind of look more deeply at the rate structure and the administration of all that. I think the two can't be separated out. And we're still going to be meeting on the structure of who we approve, how we approve vendors coming in, and that type of thing. So with that, I'll shut up.
Thanks, Phil. All right. Sarah Hudson, get your hand up.
Yeah. So I was going to ask that we could table this and let the Park Commission continue their deliberations on this for the reasons that Melissa pointed out and that Phil just reiterated about trying to have a little more variability based on the actual impact on the park, number of participants, area that they are using, because somebody like the Ignite Fitness doesn't rent a whole field. So they're taking up a whole lot less space than I-9 or the Little League when they are renting a field. So it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison. And I also wanted to point out that implementing this without some additional variation based on those factors is liable to drive the current vendors out of the park. If you look at the two entities that have 5 hours a week usage right now, if you go from charging them $180 a year to $25 per hour, you go up from $180 to $6,250. So it's a 35-time increase, not percent, 35 times higher. And I just don't know that most of those businesses could support that kind of increase, and you're liable just to drive them out of the neighborhood, and then we would have no income from those operations instead of increasing it. So I think we need a little more evaluation of this and a little more nuanced assessment of the rates.
Amy?
I would like to request that if we're not going to vote on the majority recommendation from Parks Commission, that instead of us just tabling and having some comments, that someone make a motion for how we would like to direct the Parks Commission to actually evaluate this issue.
I'll do it.
I would like to make a motion. Oh, go ahead, Kevin.
Well, let me say this. So I agree with Sarah's, I share Sarah's concern, but I appreciate the work that the commission did on it also. And I'm not opposed to adopting it as is, but I don't want to run people off. And I just don't have a sense. I saw, I think Nicole maybe had reached out to some of the vendors to find out how many folks they serve and that sort of thing. I don't know if I saw that question was noted in our packet that had been asked. Nicole, can you shed some light on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Gavin. I have heard back from one of the 4 vendors, and I have revisited them, and I sent an email back saying, can you please provide some more insight to this? Because we're just trying to make an evaluation here to understand who you serve, how you serve. And, you know, with regard to Eanes ISD, it doesn't matter. And Gavin, you and I are familiar with this with our 7-on-7 group. If we have 10 kids on the team, they're going to charge us the same amount that they're going to charge a team with 50 kids, because to them, it's rental space and they don't have a preference for how many athletes are on that field. And so we have to bear that cost in our organization. And that's the same thing here, is that it's the council at some point had established that when you take the lease agreement with Western Hills Little League and I-9, it was $25 an hour per space. And so that is what we took to adopt, to be able to say, well, that seemed to be reasonable with what you had all decided to put this out here. And we have 4 vendors at $180 a year.
Yeah,
we're not generating a lot of revenues.
Yeah, and I agree that that's totally too low. And I just, you know, if there was an instance where someone had a private trainer and wanted to go work out at the park, I mean, theoretically, you know, they would be footing the bill individually for $25 an hour. Although if you have a private trainer, you could probably afford that. But
Amen.
So here was my thought, and Wendy, I'll back off if you want to do it, but I'll just tell you the motion I was going to make, because I think this is totally solvable with a few more inputs. And I don't know that it needs to come back to council. I was going to make a motion to adopt to adopt a recommendation to approve vendors for commercial uses of the park by being charged up to $25 an hour to be determined on a sliding scale by Parks Commission and city staff. But if that's not anything you're comfortable with, you can go.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
Amy's on it. Thanks, Amy.
I think what we were trying to avoid here is the multiple touch points of staff having to schedule the commission meetings and having the park commission have to vote on it, and then have the staff have to schedule it. Like they were trying to do, I think the intent behind the $25 fee was to find a way with the staff that a vendor could come in and say, hey, here's what we plan to do, and this is to pay for, and then be able to be charged $25 an hour for it, and have it be like a streamlined process where it would work for the organization, and then it would be easier for the staff, like a form, right? We'll always have to have some dates blocked out because there are dates that are guaranteed for Little League. If there were like I-9, an organization like that wants to use it when it's a time for Little League, and Little League says, hey, we're not using it, that's great, we don't mind, like is exactly what happened with I-9 in the summer camps, then it would be flexible. But other than that, we would have some specific dates kind of out there that people could look at for leasing the park, maybe in a Google spreadsheet, and then have open time, like where the park's open for people to throw footballs and play soccer and not always have it overscheduled. But to be able to kind of use that as a starting point, but make it as administratively easy as possible for the staff. So I think when you start getting into the sliding scale stuff and approval by park commission, et cetera.
Well, let me back up. I didn't mean like on a continual basis. I meant like, I'm all for streamlining the process and making it a promulgated form and all of that. But what happens if you promulgate this new form at $25 an hour and you go present it to these vendors, only one of which we've heard back from, and all of them say, okay, well, thanks, but no thanks, I'm out.
I think we're still the cheapest show in town. You're not going to find Austin's way more. City of Austin's way more than Rollingwood, and then Eanes is more. Like we're sort of the bargain location. We're really bargain right now with $180 a year, but even at $25 an hour, you can't rent a field in any school district at that price. So, I think it was a fair, I think that's where the Park Commission has looked at this issue, and we never were able to land on anything that worked. And I think that Nicole was able to simplify the issue, and that's why this could work. But I think if we get out there and on all the vendors drop out, then hey, we need to come back and reevaluate. But my gut is that we've just been grossly undercharging for these fields, and that vendors would be happy to pay maybe not happy, that's probably the wrong word, but would be willing to pay for the use, because it is a good deal. You can't rent a facility for that amount. You can't rent another park for that amount. It's a really nice park to be able to have their commercial activities at. So I support the Park Commission's work on this, and I think delaying doesn't do anything to help us. We are not making money. We haven't been making money for a long time, and we're underfunded in our park. So I say we pull the trigger, we find a form, and we find some dates, and we see how it works. And if it doesn't work and things go bad, then you change it back. You got a motion in a second, so we could vote on that. Or you can amend your motion in a friendly way and accept the proposal that the Park Commission sent forward.
I'll defer to you. I haven't worked out in a decade, so I'm over my head.
Gavin, come on.
You know me, Nicole.
I don't know. Gavin, I'm kind of just trying to figure out how to simplify this. Like I'm looking at all of it, and I see there's a lot of work that's been put into it. And I know that setting these types of structures is complicated. I don't know.
If we don't think we'll lose, if we don't think we'll lose anybody,
we're not going to lose anybody. We got to start somewhere, and we can make tweaks along the way. There's no great answer, but we got to do something.
Melissa said that there's a meeting on Friday, so they're still working on this. I'm just wondering why.
Well, they already voted on it, so I don't know what she means by that.
We're working on the process of how we want to have the procedures laid out. Do we want 6 months up front of your calendar so we could post it to the Google Calendar? I did take time to put into all of our current vendors the amount of usage that they have in the park. It should be in your all's packet. I don't know if you have access to that calendar. I tried to share it, but I plugged in Little League from when they start until when they finish, all of our 4 current vendors' commercial use, so that people can identify when the park space is being rented. And so what we're working and meeting about on Friday is more of the logistics and the procedures. It's not with relation to the rental rate. I do want to clarify that. And that was also I tried to present that in the packet. is that this is why we suggested the $25 rental rate was the first page. Then the second page was about the processes of what we're in deliberation and going to have conversation about with Melissa on Friday. And then the third page was the I-9 proposal, because Justin Cannon from I-9 Sports has already laid out to us how often he would like to use the fields. And that could generate an additional $4,000 to the park. So if we were able to adopt a process that's easier for approved vendors to be able to use our space, we would have the ability to have these rental revenues coming in without having to take time from the park commission, without having to take time from city council, without having to be on a call at midnight on my son's 13th birthday.
Okay.
All right. Hi, Melissa. Go ahead.
You know, I hadn't done the calculation before, but I'm guessing that Beat, Ignite, Kindred, and Life Keto will no longer work in our parks. If it's $6,500 a year and it started at 180, I'm just guessing. I don't own any of those businesses, but they can go to Pease Park, Zilker Park. They could, I mean, there's a million, they could do it out of, I mean, I see in half the driveways here is people have their private trainer just at their house now. So, or have little groups of people. So I do think you're going to lose those small groups that have a, you know, much smaller group of people that are coming to them. And so, yeah, I do think you might want to do something different for those. But you could do something where it's, again, to make it, to minimize the administration of it, do a similar commercial permit fee, but make it be $600 annually, or I don't know, again, you know, I mean, or you could just say it's 6% of earnings, or, you know, something like that. You know, you can pick something that seems more fair. But on the field, I feel great. If you're doing a whole field, I think $25 is great. But we had a lacrosse group that came and rented a field, and they had brought 120 kids out there and charged them each like, you know, $120 for a day. That you ought to get a percentage for, you know, and 120 kids as opposed to 20 is really different.
You bring up a good point, Melissa. Have we just talked in terms of revenue sharing? Why don't we talk in terms of revenue sharing with these groups?
Yeah. You
said a base minimum, and then you say, you know, here you go. And we get, I don't know, whatever it is, 10%, 15%, whatever it is, over.
Where quick question, and I think that's a good point, Mayor.
Claim credit for it.
Beat Fitness, Ignite, Kindred, Heart, and Life Keto, where do they physically operate? Is it the lower part? Is it a field? What is it?
Do you have access to the Google Calendar I shared with you in your packet? It should show them. It's mostly in the Lower Park, Pavilion, and Upper Park. So I think Life Keto is Lower Park, Pavilion, off the top of my head. Ignite, I think, goes through both.
Yeah, I didn't see that column. Okay, I see.
And my husband, Vito, would say it's all about profit sharing. So he would be for a percentage of revenues that they collect. Again, I don't know administratively how that would work on our end, but
you could
it's
just
definitely
have them,
a consideration.
You could just have them deliver, deliver their books. You'd have to, there would obviously be a bit of faith, but they would have to deliver their books at, you know, whatever it is, monthly, quarterly, whatever's deemed fair, kind of thing, and kind of go from there, right? So I mean, it's taking them on a level of faith. But that said, if they cook their numbers and we all see them out there with, you know, a couple hundred people.
Well, and that was, you know, my husband Vito's point when we were approving the I-9 over the summer.
Turn that off, Luke.
For 4 weeks for them to have out there, and they charge $165 per registrant, and then they had anywhere from 40 to 70 people out there. I think he calculated it was almost like $18,000 that I-9 was able to generate revenues off of our city to be able to support their program. And he said, Nicole, just take a percentage of their sales, like be done with it. And I said, well, it's not that easy because there's a complicated system that we have here, which we've heard, you know, from the WAC tennis court proposal to now. And so the idea here is to try to come up with something consistent, which is why we did what we did, is to try being more in line with what the city has already approved. And Melissa Morrow would even support, and I don't want to speak on your behalf, but having sustaining groups in our community is a lot easier than one-offs. And so if we can get somebody in there, and if it's a sliding scale to say, hey, if you rent from us at least 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week, then this is what your rate is. Because it's a lot easier to have that familiarity with a group coming in than a one-off that just wants to rent it for 1 hour a week. But again, we came from the position and the perspective of this is how council has approached and dealt with the 2 sustaining groups that have come through our city on a regular basis. So why wouldn't we pass that along to these groups that are coming into us for the commercial use permit fee?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment.
Hey guys, I don't want to get off topic, but it is midnight and we've had employees, city staff that has been working since 8 o'clock this morning or so. Like, we need to either make a decision on this or move on.
Fair. Council, you have a motion on the table. We've had some good discussion.
Wait, do we have a motion?
I thought we did. Ashley,
was your motion, Gavin?
You made a motion. I seconded it.
Yeah,
you were quick on the draw.
Because it sounded like a good motion. It just goes back to Parks Commission, but sets the top, right?
Yeah, it sets a cap at 25.
And then they can continue any of their conversations, but they've already voted on the rate. So if they decide to take any of this discussion and continue adjusting the rate, they can. I think
you've sold me on my own motion. I'll stick with it and accept your second.
What is the motion again, Ashley?
I didn't quite get all of it, but Mayor Pro Tem Gavin Massengill motioned to adopt a recommendation to approve vendors for commercial use of the park to be charged up to $25 per hour to be determined on a sliding scale. And then I think, Gavin, it was subject to Park Commission and city staff.
Yeah. And to be clear, what I mean, yes, that is my motion. To be clear, what I mean by that is, like, you guys get together, like, you don't have to do a sliding scale. I mean, you could set it off. You could do it just like this motion, or if you get into it and decide, oh, you know, these are smaller groups and they're going to walk if we put it at this level, then you could scale it back. You could make it meet whatever you needed it to do, but you would have approval from us to do either this version or some other slightly altered structure to make sure we don't lose people. I'm just trying to give you maximum flexibility on the work you've already done, but give you some ability to change it if you determine you need to without coming back to us. That's my intent. It's not meant to cause more work for anybody. It's meant to, like, once you promulgate the form is promulgated and you can move forward, and that's what everybody pays.
Okay.
I can tell.
I don't think that's what your motion says, because it says it should be a sliding scale. So, but if that's the intent by it, then I'm fine with that.
I'm in my motion to say to possibly include a sliding scale as determined by staff and the commission.
I'll second that amendment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. It'd be brazen, just call for the vote on this. Gavin?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Sarah?
No.
Amy?
Aye.
Buck?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carries. Nicole and Parks Commission, appreciate the work on that. 23, discussion possible action on a quote to extend a water line to the butterfly garden per recommendation from the Park Commission. Council, you have in there a proposal for cost at $2,450. Okay.
I'm not the Parks Commission liaison. I can make a motion if neither of the other Parks Commission liaisons have this in front of them. I'm not sure what the pros and cons are.
It's the extension of an irrigation line to water the plantings for the butterfly garden that have been previously installed. So pros, I would assume, are the garden survives, and cons might be that the garden doesn't. Yes. So as far as we have a cost.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah. So cost a bid, I suppose. I don't know offhand whether it was competitively bid. It's $2,400. So it doesn't legally need to be, I suppose. But I don't know if you guys have any information on ongoing OpEx, what it costs for maintenance, and whether it's but in any case, that's the context and details that I have.
I don't know anything about this. I wonder if Phil, if he's still on the line, he might have some. I've seen him working over there on it, so I bet he knows.
Sure. I'm
Go ahead,
here.
Phil. Yep. Go ahead, Phil.
Well, yeah, we installed a lot of new plantings and donated plantings over in the butterfly garden, and it's thriving mainly because we've had plentiful rain this summer, but also I water it from time to time. I think Vicky actually sometimes goes out there and waters it. Mary Elizabeth actually goes out there and waters it from time to time. If there were a hose tie-in similar to what is at the front of the park that oftentimes Brian Ryder uses to water that little circular thing, that would facilitate watering it, make it a lot easier for any of us to do that. And so that I don't know if you have any questions. I'm here.
Thanks, Phil.
Does this include materials and hours?
I don't know, but I believe this probably is in-house, and it probably is materials and whatever hours to get it installed. I know Vicky, I believe, and it's just an informal talking to Vicky one time. She said, "Oh, we're trying to get it," or maybe it was Carrie was trying to get a quote. But I would think that $2,500. I'm assuming that covers both materials and costs. But to be honest, I don't. We could also, I mean, if it, I'm assuming it's going to tie into the existing irrigation at some place. We can always come back to it next month and have more answers.
Sorry to interrupt you, Phil.
Forward. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. Carrie has her hand raised. Maybe she can add some details. Okay, go ahead, Carrie.
Awesome. Thanks for sticking around, Carrie.
Hey everybody. So this was not competitively bid. This was bid by the same folks who did the work after the winter storm to make the repairs to the field house. It is to run a line. It is not something we can do in-house. So it's to run a line connecting that irrigation to run a hose bib.
And does that Carrie, it does include both parts and labor then?
It should include parts and labor. It's just a bid, and you know those costs are going up every day.
Sure.
But
sorry, I didn't look at the date. It's a month old.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah. Okay. No, the only reason I ask is the comment about rates going up every day. So just wondering if it's still
it's a pretty recent bid. It's within the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Council, what do you think? Do we want? It sounds like we've got some level of vested interest in kind of air quote ownership of the project right now with folks hand watering it. Do we want to encourage that to continue, or do we want to put a fail-safe irrigation in there?
Amber, this is not a huge price tag. I guess we do a budget amendment, or how would we pay for this? Do we still have money in any existing line? I would assume we do.
Yeah, I could check on that. Let me look real quick.
I'm ready to roll if you can find the money in the budget.
I can find it.
Can you find it right now?
Yes. Do y'all want to go on to something else and just give me a couple of minutes to locate that?
Okay, we'll jump back to 23. 24, discussion and possible action regarding a policy for guiding joint meetings of the city council, boards and city boards and city commissions. Amy, you got this on the agenda. When I first took over in this role, we did a pretty good job of kind of having what was a ridiculous name we gave it? Roundtable, mayor's roundtable, or something silly. But it was really effective initially. And basically, what we did was we grabbed either the chairperson of each board and commission, and we got together. I think monthly, and if the chairperson could make it, we tried to have a designate join. And the whole purpose from that standpoint was to really try to make sure there was a level of collaborative work going on between our boards and commissions. None of this stuff happens in a bubble, as you're well aware. In any case, I'm really glad to see that it's come back to the forefront again. So with that, floor is yours.
Thanks, Mike. I was looking at the time and how much we've talked about tonight and wondering if I could just point out why I put this on the agenda, and then if everyone's okay, we could wait until next month to really get into it so that we could hopefully move through other items. There is some sense of urgency, but I don't know that we would get through everything tonight. So I had a couple of questions raised with me about the process of RCDC going to the Parks Commission and presenting about Milk and Cookies as members of the public. And I don't really know how to get into all of that, because I think that would be Charlie advising us on if that's Open Meetings Act issues. My understanding is then that there was a lot of back and forth during the public comment period, which is something that probably we should have something to talk about with chairs on how to address that. But the bigger question that I felt like was worth addressing is what is the policy that we want as a council to see happen when boards and commissions are wanting to work together. And so there may be some Open Meetings Act questions, there may be some policy questions. And then there's also this limitation that we have now that Charlie has given us on council members being able to attend board and commission meetings, that I think we need to really, I think we just need to finally work out how that works, because it's still confusing to me. And especially if we start coming back in person, it seems confusing to me that I can't attend the planning and zoning meeting even to just go and listen to it if Gavin and Sarah are there as liaisons, even if I'm not speaking. So that's kind of the purpose of kind of looking at a policy that will help us guide kind of joint action and what would trigger us needing to put out a joint meeting notice, and how we want to ask boards and commissions to work together. And I love what you just said, Mike, about the mayor's roundtable. I'd kind of forgotten about that. And so hopefully we could just, if we all take a month and kind of think about it, maybe next month we can collect those ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly worth having. Right? And the idea, in truth, was to get everybody on the same page and help better effectuate communication coming out of the city generally, right? But in any case, yeah, I don't think we're going to have any complaints putting this off till next month. Is that right? Going once, going twice.
Do we need to make a motion to actually table it? We can just postpone it.
Okay. We'll postpone it for next month. And Ashley, if you could just make a note to go ahead and populate the agenda for next month with this one. Amber, just calling back out on 23. You ready and want us to move on to the next one?
Yes, we have $2,790 left in park maintenance budget.
I'm sorry, say that number again.
$2,790.
Okay, I move, or whoever can do it. I don't care. I've lost it now.
It's $2,450.
I'll move to approve a quote to extend a water line to the butterfly garden per recommendation of the Park Commission of up to $2,450.
Second.
The motion is second. Yeah, council, discussion, council. Not hearing any. Gavin?
Aye.
Wendy?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
And Buck?
Aye.
Okay, we've got an irrigation line. Thanks everybody on that one. Oh gosh, this is why Carrie's sticking around. Gosh, Carrie, this is on me. I apologize. I should have moved this up. Discussion and possible action on a change of address for 2500 Bettis to 400 Farley Trail.
Yeah, hi everybody. So I have a request for a change of address. It's something that I'm authorized to do, but we have been doing this. City Council has been approving these so that we've got it on public record. And then we've also been replatting lots to correspond with these changes of address. Just the change of address is up for your consideration tonight, and I will be happy to answer any questions.
I would move to approve the change of address for 2500 Bettis to 400 Farley Trail.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion. Sorry, Wendy. And Gavin beat you. A motion from Amy, a second from Gavin. Discussion, council.
Do we have any criteria that have to be met when we approve these? I mean, any reasoning, any notice to the surrounding property owners, anything like that?
No.
Because it changes the setbacks that the surrounding neighbors are exposed to. And we've had several of these where they get changed and then the house is still oriented towards the original address. which I think is confusing for the, you know, first responders, delivery people, anybody that's trying to, you know, find a mailbox, is if that front door is on the different street that than the address.
I agree. I am, like I said, requiring replats so that we've at least got some consistency in our recording as to which side the setback should be on, but we do not require that the front of the house face the side that it's addressed. That is a policy decision that y'all might want to consider.
And we also don't require notification of the neighbors that will be impacted by that. Right?
No, we don't require any notification.
Well, just to point out, the one address that I can remember is on Rollingwood Drive, where we approved this probably 2 years ago. There's a house that has an address on one street and the front of the house on the other street. So, and Carrie, it was before Carrie was building official, but I think if we want to change the policy on that, then it needs to go on the agenda as a policy change.
I agree with you. I was just wanting to make sure I understood what the requirements were, if there were any, and to bring up the point that we might need to change the code to clarify it.
Okay, well, we have a motion in a second. We obviously touched on something that's potential for future consideration, but it's certainly not noticed now for us to discuss. Any additional discussion on the motion on the table? Not hearing any. Gavin Massengill.
Aye.
Sarah Hudson.
Abstain.
Amy Patillo.
Aye.
I think Wendy may have had to go. Wendy, still with us? Did you bounce? Okay, I think Wendy left. Buck Shapiro.
I have to abstain. It's mine.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so 2 abstentions, 2 fours, 1 against, right? Is that right? No, yes.
It looks like 2 for, no against, and 2 abstentions.
That's right. Okay, thank you. God bless. Counting's tough right now. Okay, so address change approved. 2 to a tie.
Actually, no, it fails.
Fails.
It fails.
The abstentions count towards the number of votes necessary for passage.
Oh.
Except for Bucks, because he hasn't.
Bucks, that's what I'm saying. So there should only be 4 votes. Wendy's left the dais, so 3 is sufficient, right?
You need 3. You need 3 to adopt, right? So total. Gavin, maybe you can help me with this.
You need 3 to adopt, or you need a majority?
Well, the vacancies, so it's 4, right? One person abstained. 2 people abstained. All right. Of those 2, one has an actual abstention under the law.
Right.
Is that right?
Yes. I think so.
So that's
right.
3. So 2 to 1. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it does pass. You agree with that, Gavin? I think it does pass.
I think so. That's a nuance that I haven't ever faced.
But I think that's right. I think it does. I think it does pass. All right. It's
Yeah,
a weird one.
I think it's president voting.
Yeah, president voting with the
as long as we have the quorum established.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And the abstention that is a legal abstention under the law doesn't count towards the number, but the abstention that does not have a legal reason for abstaining does count. So that's 4. Right. Okay. Yeah, we're 3. That means 3 people counted. 2 voted yes, 1 voted no. We're good.
Okay. Good deal.
Does the distinction in abstentions need to be recorded in the minutes?
Yeah, to clear this up, will be. Yep. I can help you with that.
Thanks.
We also have a mayor who can break a tie.
Right, but it wasn't a tie.
It's not tied. Buck legally can't. He's as an interested party. He legally can't
Okay.
vote on it. Okay, but it passes. Address changed, approved. Discussion and possible action regarding code enforcement procedures, including but not limited to construction work hours, silt fence adequacy, and sediment leaving construction sites. Sarah, your item, I would yield the floor to you for some context, please.
Yeah, this is just, let me real quick about this, because this was on the agenda last month, and Carrie sent a notice out to the contractors on the day that I called in with a construction complaint because a truck showed up across the street from me at 10 after 6 in the morning and was banging around over there. And I talked to the police chief, and clearly that's not something that they would have noticed at that time on normal patrols, but that was the second incident at that house within a week. And I also saw another one where a construction crew was leaving a house at 8:30 on a Saturday night. And the chief mentioned that it would be helpful to them to not have exemptions, if you will, to our construction hours, so that they had consistent hours to work with on working the enforcements. And also just would like the council to support the idea of a more proactive effort on the part of the police to enforce the construction hours, because we've had other residents that are complaining as well about the not wanting to have to be the ones to call in complaints, especially when it's something that should be more easily identified by patrols.
I mean, we've discussed this a number of times over the course of the last 6 years that I've been involved here, and it all ends up largely in the same bucket in previous experience anyway. I don't know, maybe something's changed, but you know, it doesn't matter how many people you put on it unless you're putting somebody on a site, you know, 24/7. Then it's always going to be on a patrol. And at some point, there's going to be an absentee issue with our enforcement. And so, you know, the quickest way to get, you know, any reaction is to contact law enforcement for enforcement action. So I'm still, you know, me personally, I kind of end up at a loss as to how our officers are supposed to be more active, and even if we're hiring additional folks, how they're going to be more active.
Okay, sorry, it's a little late and my brain is not quite firing quite as quickly, but it's my memory that we as a council can't direct police officers and how they conduct their duties. So is the request just that we amend our code, or are you asking for the council to support asking the police to do a specific action?
The chief suggested that it would be helpful for them not to have variances granted to builders that allow them to operate outside the code limits, so that they know who's authorized to work when. So I think that is certainly something that we can ask staff to not grant exceptions, except under really, really severe circumstances, and to make sure that they notify the police that that is the case. I also had comments from citizens who said that, you know, if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to keep getting what we've always gotten, and it's not improving. So trying to improve on the enforcement, and so that the builders know that we're really improving on the enforcement, and then hopefully they will get the message and we will not have as many incidents.
Well, the second one sounds like the council directing the police officers to me, which I don't believe we can do. But on the first one, we've had like numerous council meetings where we've had to approve any variances on building hours. Like we had the BSAR thing. So I'm not sure I'm understanding what the variances are.
Hi, this is Carrie. I'd like to just jump in here so maybe I could clear some of this up and save y'all some time. I did grant 2 variances. I granted, the ordinance says no construction on city holidays, and we did have a city holiday that was Texas Independence Day, which fell on a Tuesday. And then we had a city holiday that was July 5th, and I did that. And I was directed by the city administrator not to do that anymore, and I have not granted any since then. I'm aware of 4 code complaints since our last meeting when we discussed this. PD has been sending me those updates. I was made aware of the one across the street from Sarah after I had sent out notice to all the builders, because I had spoken with you all about, you know, just increasing my communication with builders. So on the building development side, I have been increasing that, and did send out a notice that happened to fall that same day. And then that afternoon I was made aware of Sarah's complaint. But the noticing does seem to have helped. And I'm not granting variances. So I can't control people, delivery drivers, from showing up at odd hours. And there are going to be people who break the rules. So, you know, if there's something that we can be doing better, you know, I'm open to that. I don't know if the chief has any other recommendations, but as far as addressing variances to those construction hours, those will only be going to you all. And I erred in granting the one on those 2 occasions.
Well, and Carrie, to be fair, I mean, you know, we've discussed this, and in some of your consideration in granting those variances where people were trying to get into their homes before school and they had kiddos, and so it's you know, not just builders, it's future families in Rollingwood, and so it's a hard balance between the two. So I think you had the best of intentions with your decisions, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely was just trying to work with people. I think that there's an idea that everybody here working as a developer, and you know, a lot of people are neighbors who are remodeling their homes and trying to get back in before the start of school, and that's what I was working with. But it was not following proper procedure, and I will not do it again, and haven't done it since.
Well, and I appreciate the clarification, because a variance to me sounds like individual, if the confusion is like the individual properties are getting exceptions, but others aren't, that makes sense to me, that could be confusing. And so, and if we have a history of not previously allowing a whole day of variances for everybody, I can see where that's something new that the police department would have to learn. And I would say that just as a matter of course, in the past, those variances have come to the council, and then it's given neighbors an opportunity to give feedback. Like, I do think it was helpful to have feedback about the beeping concerns from the people on Timberline for overnight variance on the Endeavor building, because we were able to come up with a solution. So I would say that I really appreciate, Carrie, you wanting to like balance all those things. And sometimes you balance one way and then you realize maybe the next time you balance a different way. So I'm not upset about that, but I guess it made it sound like that there were individual businesses or individual builders getting exceptions, and that's not what this is. So I'm not really sure if we need to address variances now, if you're not going to give them unless they come to council.
I think that is the address that needed to be made. That had not been shared with council. So I think just letting us know that that was not going to happen anymore is all we need to do on this tonight. So.
Okay. Well, so
I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw in that we're also, I mean, we anytime we come across a violation, whether we see it on view or we're notified by a resident, now we have established better communication with Carrie. We're forwarding all of those emails so she can address that with builders or different contractors. So I think that line of communication is working as well.
Thank you, Chief. Council, and I'm not sure if there's any action to be taken here, but now's a great time to do it if you're so inclined.
I think we're good.
All right. Then in that case, we'll move on to item 27. Discussion and possible action on an education certification and bilingual pay policy. We discussed this, I don't know, yesterday when we were talking about budget. Amber, would you like to bring the attention back to this?
Yes, sure. So this is a little more comprehensive than just the certification pay that which y'all approved earlier. This would extend pay for education, which is something that would recognize maybe the management team. It would pay them for their education that they have and they bring to Rollingwood, and then also bilingual. It's a benefit for us to have both of those things, and so we structured it similarly to what certification pay looks like. For the management team, they don't have an opportunity to attain certifications. It's not in their professional pathway, and so I think recognizing their education and compensating them for that would be a good idea. And so I know this is the first time you're hearing of this. When I was doing my research for a policy for certification pay, I came across these two additional things, and I have been requested to ask the council for bilingual pay. And so this is before you tonight to think about the two additional pays.
Thank you, Amber. Council, any action?
So can we clarify bilingual pay is also available to the public works staff?
It would be available to any employee who could successfully meet or pass a test. We'll have to pick out what test that is, but they would have to pass a written verbal test to show that they were proficient in Spanish. So they could get either, and then under this design, Like Chief Brady has his master's degree, or he has his, I think it's master peace officer license. Whichever one is greater, he can get paid for. He can't get paid for both, but they can also get paid if he was also proficient in Spanish, he could get paid for bilingual pay as well. So it's either certification or education and bilingual if they meet standards.
Okay. Maybe we can clarify on the details, because the public work people are eligible for occupational license pay, which is not listed under here. It just says bilingual pay and either certification pay or education pay, but it doesn't say anything about occupational license pay. So
sure, we can add that. Just
that
complete oversight.
Just to make sure that that's clear. And also, is it typical to pay for education when the position already requires a certain level of education? Just as the qualification criteria for the position?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we could also require that of our public works director, right? Or of our chief of police, we would require him to have a certain level of a peace officer certification. So it's something that, you know, it's industry standard. And I would say it's the same thing as what we would require of public works director, chief of police.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to reward people for their accomplishments. I just think some of the management positions, that level of education is already kind of baked into the salaries that we have right now. So I just think that we would need to take that into account when we are making adjustments to the salary, if we are going to also add an education pay component to it, that we kind of making sure we're not double dipping on that.
Sure, and just to be clear, I mean, when I say management team, I mean, Rollingwood's an army of one. So we have one person in development services. She's the department head. It's not like she has an entire team working, you know, underneath her. We have one city secretary. We have one finance director, you know, one utility billing person. So while they are management, they are not only doing management things, they're doing things that is required of the entire department. It's if they're not there, it's not getting done. So I don't want that to get lost on us either.
Oh, maybe I'll just go. Amber.
Sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. So we just approved the public works certification pay by the licenses.
Mm-hmm.
So is this on top of that, or is this the same as that?
So it's the same. That, you know, if you didn't approve the education and the bilingual pay, I would take those sections out and leave the policy, you know, without those two sections.
So would people be getting both what we approved earlier, the annual, or there's I guess it's a monthly and a yearly certification pay, plus they would get this pay?
No, this is the policy to, it supports what you all passed earlier.
Okay.
So
I was not clear on that either.
I'm sorry about that. I'm not explaining that well. This is the policy that would support what you approved earlier. It just has two additional, it has the bilingual pay and the education pay as a proposed.
So, so the dollar amount's the same?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, you just got my vote. I was just going to quietly vote against it. So it's good information.
Other thought too, I really want us to get away from treating employees differently. Kind of back to your thoughts, Sarah. I don't want, it's important for morale. We can't have a few employees getting something that the other employees aren't getting. Our team is too small to withstand any sort of disruption like that or disparate treatment. And so I really think that we need to treat all the employees the same.
I agree with that. I think that's great. I just want to make sure that we are making sure that we have considered if we adopt this, which I am in favor of, that we make sure that we are considering that in adjustments to salaries for other purposes. If we're already requiring that a position have a bachelor's degree, and we've hired somebody in and they have a bachelor's degree and we pay them based on that, and then we implement this, and now all of a sudden, oh, now we're going to pay you extra because you have a bachelor's degree. We've already factored that in. So we just need to make sure that we are accounting for that when we are doing our setting our salaries.
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying, but I disagree because this is an additional tool to recruit top talent. So in addition to a salary that would compensate you for your bachelor's degree, we also pay you an education pay. And we're going to pay you that because we want you to have your degree and we want you to work here for us. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that.
Well, so it sounds like that's a nuance in the future for future hires that we could pass this policy tonight. And right. If we decided to change something about that in the future, that's available. But for right now, this is what it would be, because it would apply to everybody who exists right now.
Right.
All right. Are we ready for a motion?
Yes.
Great. I would move to approve the education, certification, and bilingual pay policy.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Discussion, council. Okay. Call the vote. Amy?
Aye.
Buck? Sarah?
Aye.
Gavin?
Aye.
Buck, we lose you? All right. Well, 3-1. Show that Buck was off the dice. Pass, or 3-0, I suppose. Okay. Item 28, update on the status of wastewater LUA study. Amber, do we have any thing to update on that current progress report, please?
There's a memo from Nalisa, the consultant who's working on this project, in your packet.
Okay. All right. Well, council, thoughts or comments on the memo included?
I just wanted to get an update because we hadn't heard anything about this in a while, and I feel like this project's kind of fallen into a black hole. Because it was, it's been going on 2 years since we started the whole wastewater rate assessment. And anyway, I just wanted to know where we were, because this seems like it should have been completed before now, and wanted to know where we were at. So.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Does the memo satisfy the desired update?
It tells us where we're at, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So assuming no other comment on this, I'll move on to 29, discussion possible action to review applications and make appointments to the Park Commission, Utility Commission, RCDC, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Board of Adjustment. Ashley, I stepped away from my computer. I know we've got Melissa who's stepping up for us on Park Commission. Is there anybody else that council's considering tonight?
I would, oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, we have 3 applications for the Park Commission currently. Colin Harvey, we've had his application since September 2020. We also have Jennifer Myers' application. She submitted it in August, just recently this month, and then Melissa Morrow's as well. And there is a list in the packet of all the outstanding applications.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Has anybody reached out to Mr. Harvey for kind of that long-lived application to see if he's still interested?
I have, and he is still interested.
Okay, perfect. Okay, council, well, how many positions do we have, Ashley?
Just one opening.
Just
on
the
Park
one?
Commission.
Okay, council, we have three applicants for a singular seat. Do we have any motion for that?
I have a motion. I move we appoint Melissa Morrow to the open position on Park Commission.
Second.
A motion from Sarah and a second from Amy. Discussion, council?
Well, I have a discussion, and I love Melissa Morrow. She knows I do. But haven't we typically tried to go with those who have been on the list the longest?
Typically, yes. Which is, in fact, why I asked if we had kind of updated or checked in to see if that long-lived application was still of interest. But there's no hard and fast rule that says we have to do that. But yes, you're correct. We have been trying to make, we have endeavored to do that.
My understanding is that he had applied for multiple different open positions. And so he was not dead set on Park Commission. And Melissa has fabulous experience with everything that the Park Commission is dealing with. She has history in the community. She's, you know, dealing with leasing athletic facilities, with managing athletic facilities, with managing fields and turf. And I think that she would be a great asset to the Park Commission.
I agree. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not going to vote against Melissa. I just question. But I do think we need to probably try to roll in some of these that have been on there the longest. But let's get past tonight, please.
And okay. So we have a motion, and we've had some discussion, additional discussion, council. Not hearing any. We'll go ahead and call a vote. Sarah Hudson.
Aye.
Buck Shapiro.
No.
No. Gavin Maskill.
Aye.
Amy Patillo.
Aye.
All right. Well, the Park Commission, Melissa, and encourage Jennifer Meyer to please stick it out, and we'll get you on the next availability, hopefully. And then same with Mr. Harvey, when an availability opens up on one of the 3 boards that you have requested. All right, let's see. Item 30, discussion and possible action regarding the Rollingwood Transportation Strategy Draft and Transportation Project Updates. Amy, this is a doozy for 1 o'clock in the morning.
I am postponing it till next month. There's nothing on it that's urgent. Amber had some great updates in her administrator's report. And so I actually made the decision not to include an attachment. And when I saw the agenda.
Got it. Well, we appreciate it. Okay, no objection to the postponement. Going once, twice, sold. Standing agenda item, update, discussion, possible action, pass resolution. Man, I'm not reading all that right now. We all know what it is. Amy, you have the floor for any updates.
I think Amber had the update in her administrator's report that Amber and Ashley and I met with the new executive director for CTRMA, James Bass. It was a great meeting. And she had some updates there that I'm not recalling off the top of my head. They were worded really well.
Can't imagine why.
I'll pull it up real fast. She said it well. We learned that the South Mopac project is currently being evaluated for feasibility regarding whether the toll fees will adequately cover the debt service. And then if the project is feasible, they're going to reopen the public engagement process for input. And then we also have been coordinating with BICR staff to have them reach out to Campo to get the 2045 data so that the engineer can continue assessing that information. And we were assured that he would be able to get that information.
Great.
That was it.
Amber and Amy, we deeply appreciate you keeping us engaged in that conversation. It's obviously critically important to the health of our community that certain things previously discussed don't happen with South Mopac Expressway. But items 32 through 42, these are reports. Record reflect that they are available to the public should the public wish to engage them. On that note, man, this is a record for me, guys. 1 o'clock. Anybody want to adjourn? Everybody want to adjourn?
Second.
Right on. Show of hands. Fantastic. No objections. Right on. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking around.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.